Hey, my name's Anna and I like to read, and in this video I'm going to be talking about my favorite graphic novels. So I actually divided these graphic novels into categories or genres, and the first genre that I'm going to be talking about is graphic novels about New York or New York City. So the first graphic novel that I wanted to mention is Hello New York, an illustrated love letters to the five boroughs. This is a graphic novel about New York City and the five boroughs in New York, and it's basically about all the interesting places that you can visit in New York, and it has beautiful illustrations and very interesting summaries to go along with the illustrations. The next graphic novel that I wanted to mention is The Bridge, or How the Roeblings Connected Brooklyn to New York. This is a graphic novel about the Brooklyn Bridge and how it was built, and the illustrations are beautiful and I really like the artwork, but I also enjoyed learning about the historical aspects of how the bridge was built. So the next genre of graphic novels that I wanted to talk about is fantasy. And so the first fantasy graphic novel that I wanted to mention is Mooncakes. This is about a witch and a werewolf, and they were childhood best friends, and then they meet up as adults and they form a friendship and then eventually a relationship. And this graphic novel is also very diverse in its representation. The main character is bisexual and her partner is non-binary, and also the main character has two grandmas who she lives with. I really enjoyed reading this book. I thought the art style was fantastic and the story was really cute, and I liked the themes they explored, and I really liked the art style as well. And the next fantasy graphic novel that I wanted to mention is On a Sunbeam, and I actually recently read this and I really liked it. I thought the art style was beautiful, but I also enjoyed the way the author wrote the relationships and the friendships, and this featured found family, and this was just very beautiful, and I will be talking more about it in my wrap up, but overall I really like this fantasy graphic novel. And the last fantasy graphic novel that I wanted to mention is actually a series. It's the Umbrella Academy series, volumes 1 through 3. I really love this series. I actually watched the TV show first and then decided to read the graphic novels. I think that the art style is fantastic in these, but I also really like the story. It features dark humor and it's just really interesting and fun to read. And the next genre of graphic novels that I wanted to mention is adaptations. So the first graphic novel adaptation that I wanted to mention is Speak. While this didn't really add much to the plot, I really enjoyed reading this story in a different format because I thought it was just interesting to see it in a artistic format, and I think that the black and white art style in this graphic novel really adds to the story, and I really enjoyed reading this graphic novel. And the next graphic novel adaptation that I wanted to mention is The Giver. So while this didn't really add much to the plot of The Giver itself, it was just interesting to read it in a different format, and I thought it was great to read because I really enjoyed the art style in this adaptation as well. And the last graphic novel adaptation that I wanted to mention is Kindred. So I actually haven't read the original novel, but I had to read this graphic novel for a class in grad school, and I really enjoyed this graphic novel. I thought the art style was really great, and I thought the story was so interesting, so fascinating. I really enjoyed this graphic novel as well. And the next genre of graphic novels that I wanted to talk about is realistic fiction. So the first realistic fiction graphic novel that I wanted to mention is Pumpkinheads, and this is about two best friends who are seasonal friends. They only see each other when they're working at the pumpkin patch. So this is their last night working at the pumpkin patch because they're seniors and they're going to college next year, so they won't be working at the pumpkin patch anymore. And so this graphic novel takes place overnight, and it's basically about their adventure during that night. This was really an adorable and cute read, especially during fall time. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was adorable, and I liked the art style as well. And I also enjoyed reading about the friendship between the main characters. And the next realistic fiction graphic novel that I wanted to mention is I Am Alfonso Jones. This is about a teen named Alfonso Jones who gets shot by a police officer, and he wakes up in the afterlife, and he's guided by victims of police brutality. And so we get to see his perspective in the afterlife, but we also get to see his family and his friends grieving. This is an important and educational read. This discusses a lot of themes and topics that I think everyone should read about, and I really enjoyed the art style in this graphic novel as well. And the next realistic fiction graphic novel that I wanted to mention is Check Please Volume 1. I actually talked about this in my May TBR. I don't have it with me, so I'll just put a picture up. So it was really interesting and cute, and I really like the story in this graphic novel, and the art style is so great. I really like how the author captured their expressions in the graphic novel. So I am excited to reread it, and then I'm gonna read the second volume of Check Please. And the last realistic fiction graphic novel that I wanted to mention is Heartstopper. So this is about Nick and Charlie who go to a school in the UK, and they become friends, and then they start to form a relationship. I thought this was really cute. I thought that the art style in this graphic novel was great. She really captures the expressions of the characters really well, and I am excited to read the second and third volume in this series. And so the last genre that I wanted to talk about in this video is memoirs. So the first graphic memoir that I wanted to mention is The Best We Could Do by Thai Bu. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. So this is about Thai and how her family moved from Vietnam, and her parents dealing with immigrating and immigration, and how they had to adjust to a new life in the United States. I thought this was really great. The art style was really beautiful, and she really depicts the hardships that immigrants go through, and I really loved reading this book. Next graphic memoir that I wanted to mention is Relish by Lucy Kinsley. So this is about Lucy growing up with her mom, who is a chef, and this is part memoir but also part cookbook, and this is just really adorable and cute, and it has recipes for the food that Lucy talks about, and I really enjoyed the art style. It was really great, and I also enjoyed reading about her childhood and her growing up with a mom who is a chef. And the next graphic memoir that I wanted to mention is something new, Tales from a Makeshift Bride by Lucy Kinsley. This is about Lucy and her being a bride, and her fiance preparing for their wedding, and I thought the art style was great, and it was really fun to read. The next graphic memoir that I wanted to mention is Kid Gloves 9 Months of Careful Chaos by Lucy Kinsley. This is about Lucy and her trying to conceive, and then her pregnancy and the complications she had during it, and I thought it was really interesting, and this is an important and educational read, and I also thought that the art style really added to the plot of her memoir as well. And the last graphic memoir that I wanted to mention is Hey Kiddo by Jared Kozowska. This is about Jared and him growing up with a mother who was addicted to heroin, and him having to live with his grandparents, and it's about his childhood and then his adolescence and his adulthood, and He discusses his mother's addiction, and he discusses a lot of the things that he went through, and he also talks about reconciling with his parents as an adult. And I thought this was a very interesting and important read. I thought the art style was great, and I really enjoyed overall reading his memoir. And overall, I really enjoyed reading this graphic novel. However, I did want to mention that this deals with a lot of heavy material. So, those are all of my favorite graphic novels so far. What are your favorite graphic novels? Do you like graphic novels? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, subscribe, and I'll see you in another video soon.